Thank you so much. Chair now is pleased to recognize Mr. Ron Wilson, who's the Legislative Chair of the International Chisholm Trail Association. Mr. Wilson?
Thank you, Chair DeGette, Ranking Member Fulcher, and members of the subcommittee. Thank you for conducting this hearing, and thanks for this opportunity to express our strong support for HR 2512. I wanted to give you all a tip of the hat and commend you all for the work this committee does on behalf of our citizens so that they might experience our nation's historic, cultural, and environmental heritage. So thank you for your service. And thanks to your committee staff for the courteous and efficient way they worked with us. I am Ron Wilson, a Kansas rancher, a faculty member at Kansas State University, and volunteer legislative chair of the International Chisholm Trail Association. The primary mission of the International Chisholm Trail Association, its 200 plus members, is to identify, preserve, develop, and promote the Old Chisholm Trail for education and heritage tourism purposes. We are partnering with the Western Cattle Trail Association to support this bill to designate both the Chisholm and the Western Trails as National Historic Trails while concurrently protecting private property rights of adjacent landowners. We applaud Congressman Ron Estes and the other House co-sponsors for introducing this legislation. In 2019, after a decade of extensive research and community outreach as directed by Congress, the Department of Interior reported that public comments were overwhelmingly supportive and that both the Chisholm and the Western Trails meet all the criteria for National Historic Trail designation. We appreciate the outstanding efforts of the staff members from the National Park Service's National Trails Intermountain region in Santa Fe, New Mexico, who led these research efforts. The trails were found to be of national significance in 4 ways: developing the American economy through exchange and trade, developing the American economy through distribution, consumption, transportation, and communication, peopling places, and expressing cultural values. We strongly agree with these findings. The study recommended that the trails be designated separately as the Chisholm National Historic Trail and Western National Historic Trail and be administered as a single administrative unit. We concur with this finding as well. Chair DeGette, you said it well when you said that these trails represent a captivating period of American history. In the post-Civil War era, there was no easy or inexpensive way to bring longhorn cattle north to markets from cash-poor but cattle-rich Texas. Entrepreneurial Texans chose to walk their cattle north in what was called a cattle drive through incredible challenges and hazards to railheads in Kansas. As they moved north, these multicultural cowboys, sometimes called drovers, followed a route blazed by Native American trader Jesse Chisholm through present-day Oklahoma and Kansas. In later years, settlement patterns caused the cattle drives to move to a western route through Dodge City and beyond. These trails significantly affected the character and development of communities along their routes. Up to 10 million head of cattle were moved north to markets in the Midwest and eastern states. The development and intensive use of these trails played an important role in the economic recovery of the region in the post-Civil War era. The diverse drovers and cowboys who rode these trails became enduring icons of courage, grit, and adventure. As one National Park Service document stated, as a symbol of the West, these trails and their legacy vividly remain. These historic cattle trails had high economic impact then, and they still have impact today. There's global interest in the history of the cattle trails. Heritage tourism along the Chisholm and Western National Historic Trails would encourage exploration of our diverse and rural communities. The states and communities that would be affected by such a designation have already developed interpretive infrastructure on the trails, so there's a strong basis on which the NPS can build. As noted in the NPS study, given the nature of the times, there were various names applied to the trails at various places and times. As interpretive materials are developed for the trails, we believe they should share the full inclusive history of the trails. Furthermore, the history of the cattle trails is a multicultural story, and these stories should be shared from this perspective as well as in a respectful way. Contrary to some Hollywood portrayals, it's estimated that 1/4 or more of the trail drovers were of African American, Hispanic, or Native American descent. We've been reaching out to partner organizations who have an interest in telling these stories inclusively as well. Finally, I would note that the Chisholm Trail is named for Jesse Chisholm, an interpreter, trader, and historic peacemaker of Cherokee descent. He was said to be able to speak 14 different Native American languages. I can barely handle English. We believe that designating this historic trail in honor of Jesse Chisholm would show respect for this remarkable Native American and signal a commitment to greater inclusion and equity in the interpretation of the trails. Chair DeGette, Ranking Member Fulcher, and members of the committee, we respectfully encourage the subcommittee to approve HR 2512 as introduced. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wilson, for that extremely informative description